More than a year in the job now, we still hear that it's always someone else's fault. We've just heard it was the coalition government's fault. It was COVID's fault. It was Keev's fault. It was America's fault. It was even the floods' fault for a while there. It was everyone's fault, everyone but the Labor government's fault. Remember a year ago when the Treasurer said that 5.1% inflation was a full-blown cost-of-living crisis? And today inflation sits around 7%, higher than in the United States, higher than Canada, Germany, Japan. So whose responsibility is this? Well, in May 22, just before the election, the Prime Minister made this solemn promise to the Australian people. As your Prime Minister, I won't run from responsibility. I won't treat every crisis as a chance to blame someone else. I will show up. I will step up. I will bring people together. And then his Treasurer-to-be jumped up on the same bandwagon. He said, we want to show up every day and take responsibility, not just for the good things, but for the difficult things as well. Well, through you, Madam Deputy Speaker, to the Treasurer, I've got news for this government. It's time to show up. As a result of the government's inability to tame inflation, its constant stoking of the economic engine with brand-new spending, Australians have confronted 12 interest rate rises in almost as many months. The average Australian household is now more than $25,000 worse off each and every year following the last budget. And Australian families are paying more for everything: their mortgage, their energy bills, their tools, their groceries, their kids' school needs, their clothes, their shoes. So what is this government doing to address inflation? Ask them, and literally, without blinking, they will start a stream of handouts which in turn then risk making inflation worse. Independent rating agency S&P Director Anthony Walker noted in May that handouts in the most recent budget may add to inflationary pressures. Former RBA Governor Glenn Stevens has conceded the Albanese government's budget would have an expansionary effect. This government needs to be exerting downward pressure on inflation, not upward. What it needs is a comprehensive economic plan to boost productivity and to tame inflation. Without an economic plan, the Reserve Bank is having to do all the heavy lifting alone. Without an economic plan, Australian families and our struggling small businesses will have to keep paying the price for Labor's laziness. I see my local residents paying the price for Labor's failures, Labor's inability, in their own words, to step up. So many residents of Flinders are on fixed incomes. Indeed, more than 22,000 of my electors are pensioners with very, very little room to absorb increased costs. About a third of dwellings on the peninsula, roughly 34%, are owned with a mortgage. And back in 2021, when we had the last census, 15% of them were already spending more than 30% of their income on their mortgage interest repayments. Those who were lucky enough to secure interest rates in the high 1s or low 2% during the last government's tenure are now facing their interest rate shooting up to more than 8 or 9% the day after their fixed term expires. A few weeks ago, AGL came to visit me and told me that the default price for gas in Victoria for homes and small businesses will be going up by about 30% mid-year. So what will that do to local businesses? Local businesses like Bass and Flinders Distillery, which I visited on the weekend. A thriving local business, it makes the best gin in the country. And as I see that the member for Casey is not here to correct me, I proclaim it to be true. What will businesses like Bass and Flinders in Dramana, or Chief's Son, or the Original Spirit Company in Somerville, who all run their gas-fired distilled spirits stills on the peninsula for days on end, how will they absorb a 30% price increase overnight? And what will it do to Sealight, a world-leading business in marine technology and safety, which manufactures giant ocean buoys and navigation moulds from molten plastic produced exclusively by gas? Labor's failure to act to address inflation has a real impact on the ground across my electorate. Just after the last Labor budget back in May, I received an email from a constituent which summed up the impact this government's policies are having. She allowed me to share her words here. Dear Zoe, I've been in business since March 1980. In the late 80s, we had that recession. I remember clearly what it was like. High interest rates and cost of living increase. Many people lost their houses, jobs and businesses and could not sell a house for months. At the present time, I feel we are going a full circle. Business has dried up. People are really tightening the belt to pay their mortgages and bills. I know I am saying what you already know, but what a sad state of affairs our beautiful country is in.
Time's expired.